All right, guys, today we are combining what we have learned about aggregate demand and aggregate supply and putting it all on one graph where we have the downward sloping demand curve and the upward sloping aggregate supply curve, okay? So remember, AS or SRAS, short run aggregate supply, is all the things supplied in all of America, the whole country. And AD or aggregate demand is all of the things demanded, all the demand added together in the entire country, okay? So we're going to analyze what would happen if one shifts and like the domino effects that those things have, okay? So the ADAS graph puts all demand for everything and all supply for everything in all of America onto one graph. And something that used to just change the demand curve now has impacts on output and price level and unemployment. And we can look at how it impacts the supply curve as well. And same for vice versa. Things that would impact the supply curve now might impact everything else, okay? So let's review things that we already know here. Why would aggregate demand, or SRAS, short run aggregate supply, shift? So AD would shift if one of the parts of AD, which is C, I, G, or X, would shift. Let me write that there. So AD shifts if something in C, I, G, or X. And for both of these, if it shifts to the left, that means it's less. And if it shifts to the right, that means it's more. It increases, okay? And keep in mind, exports is exports minus imports. The X is exports minus imports, okay? And then the reasons that short-run aggregate supply would change are similar to the reasons that regular, like small microeconomic supply would change. Input costs, if it's more expensive. Technology or productivity, we make more or make it faster. The number of working age adults, the number of people that are available to work, will change our supply. If there's more people available to work, we can supply more. If there's less people available to work, we can supply less. Human capital, how much education people have, changes supply. And then things that the government does, government policy. Okay? So let's go for it. Let's figure it out. So, graph and explain what would happen to AD or SRAS. But you also need to say what would happen to price level. That's our y-axis. Output, that's our x-axis, and then unemployment. Remember, if output goes up, that means unemployment goes down. We have to make more stuff, so we need to employ more people. If output goes down, that means that we're not making as much stuff, our factories aren't doing as well, we start laying people off, and unemployment would increase. So if middle-class taxes are raised, so now the people in the middle class are making less money. This is a consumer spending issue. And consumer spending is part of AD. So consumer spending will decrease because they have less money, okay? And that means that AD, because C is part of AD, will decrease as well. So let's draw that on our graph. Decrease would shift to the left. Left is less. So draw a new AD curve. Label it AD sub 1. Put an arrow and a little tip, put the arrow at the top so it doesn't get in the way. And you see how we had an equilibrium here. The original short run aggregate supply curve and the original aggregate demand curve had an equilibrium point where Y, remember we talked about why they chose Y, we don't really know, okay? Y is the amount of output we have, and PL is the inflation that we have at the current time, okay? The price level. Well, now we've changed the curve. It used to be here, and now it's here. So where is our new equilibrium? Here's the new curve, and here's SRAS that hasn't changed. So our new equilibrium is right here. So we have to draw a new equilibrium. Label that price level 1 and Y1. And we have to indicate with arrows what happened. From the original price level to the new price level, it looks like it decreased. From the original output Y to the new output Y, looks like it also decreased. So we need to say that over here when we're describing the graph. That means price level or inflation went down. And then our output or our GDP, let's actually write our GDP. Our GDP also decreased. If we are making less stuff, our GDP decreased. That means we don't need as many people to make that stuff. We're going to start laying people off. So that means our unemployment has increased. All right, and that's how we answer these questions, and that's how we graph it. Let's do another one. So graph and explain what will happen, include price level, output, and unemployment. The government increases corporate taxes and environmental regulations for factories, okay? So they increase corporate taxes and environmental regulations for factories. This makes it harder for factories to produce things because they have less money to produce things, and they have to watch their pollution, okay? So this is going to decrease SRAS. Why? Due to change in government policy. So we've got the why, we've got what happens. Let's actually put it on the graph. So decrease would shift to the left. Left is less. Label it SRAS 1, because it's a new one, and indicate with an arrow which way it went. It shifted to the left, okay? But as you can see, we've got a new equilibrium. Here was our original, and now our new equilibrium is here. So we have to draw lines from our new equilibrium to both axes to see where output and inflation are. So here's the new output, and here's the new inflation. So what happened to those things? Well, it looks like, oops, sorry, I didn't label it sub 1. It looks like our price level was here, and it went up to here, so it increased. Draw an arrow, and then describe it over here. Price level increased. What happened to our GDP? It was here, and now it's here. So that shifted to the left. It was a decrease. Left is less. So our RGDP that we denote down here with a Y, our RGDP actually decreased. If we are making less stuff, our RGDP decreased. We shifted this way. That means we don't need as many people to make that stuff because it's not really needed. So we start firing people. That increases unemployment. And there's the answer there. You see how it's different than the last one? Because this one shifted the SRAS curve and not the AD curve. All right, let's do another one. Americans gain more wealth. So Americans are making more money as a whole. That means we're going to spend more money as a whole. That's a consumer spending issue. Consumer spending increases, and if consumer spending increases, that's part of AD. AD will also increase. So let's draw it on our graph. If AD increases, it shifts to the right. Label it AD sub 1. Indicate with an arrow which way it shifted. And we've got a new equilibrium. Here was our old equilibrium. Here's our new equilibrium. So here we go. Label it Y sub 1 because it's a new Y. Label it PL sub 1 because it's a new price level. Our old price level was here. Our new one is here. Looks like it went up. So we go over here and we say price level went up. Our old GDP was here. Now our new GDP is here. It shifted to the right. That is an increase. So our GDP increased. If we are making more stuff, our GDP is increasing. People are buying more. Then that means that unemployment is going to decrease because we need to hire more people to make more stuff. Last one. Here we go. Every year, more Americans enroll in college or technical school. So how would that impact supply or demand? Well, if we have more people being educated, that's a human capital issue. More people are going to school, more people are going to join the workforce, we can supply more. So SRAS increases due to a change in human capital. All right? So which way does it go? If we are increasing, we shift it to the right. Label it SRAS 2. Oh, sorry, SRAS 1. Indicate with an arrow which way it shifted. And now we've got this old equilibrium here that's no longer important. Here was our equilibrium. Here's the new equilibrium. We have to draw lines from there. A new RGDP, label it Y sub 1. A new price level, label it price level sub 1. What happened? Our price level was here, then it went to here. Looks like a decrease. So indicate that over here. Price level went down. Okay. Then we also have this issue. Our output was here, and now it's here. That looks like an increase because it shifted to the right. Put an arrow. RGDP increased. And when we think about RGDP, we want to think about unemployment too. If we're making more stuff, we have to employ more people to make that stuff. And also, look at the problem. Americans enroll in college or technical school, they're going to want jobs. So unemployment will actually decrease. Okay? All right, we'll get to fiscal policy actions in a different video. Thank you.